Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a live streaming webinar. We have a special guest speaker with us today, Jamar Cobb-Dennard with Indiana Business Advisors. Jamar, how are you doing today?
Really good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Jamar, I'm going to mute my audio in the channel now. Your presentation is up on the screen, so you have the floor.
Perfect. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to small business owners in Central Indiana and really support the efforts that we're doing to lead and amongst all the changes. So thanks again, Ryan, for the opportunity and the platform. Let's go ahead to slide 2, and I'll tell everyone a little bit about myself. I am a business broker at Indiana Business Advisors. We help small business owners cash out of their businesses and entrepreneurs purchase new companies. Before my time at Indiana Business Advisors, I was a business owner and leadership coach. Also, I'm more widely known in the community as a political analyst on WRTV6 as well as Fox 59, and also was a candidate for Lawrence Mayor in 2019, where I earned 49% of the vote. Among those things, graduated from IU Law School in 2018. In 2013, Indianapolis Business Journal 40 Under 40 honoree, and in 2009 was Rainmakers Marketing Group's Rookie of the Year for networking. So I have a lot of experience from the business, community, and legal perspective to share with everyone today in our presentation called Recession Rebound, 8 Bounce Back Strategies to really thrive in 2020. We'll talk about this a little bit later, and let's go ahead and go to slide 3. There's a copy of this presentation available online at bit.ly/recession rebound. That's bit.ly/recession rebound. Let's jump into our content today in slide 4. The 8 bounce back strategies for 2020. I'm not going to hide the ball, pun intended, for these 8 strategies. Number 1 is to move your cheese. So we're going to talk about how to deal with the change in the marketplace as a business owner and as a community leader. Number 2, change markets. So I'll give you some ideas on where you can go in the marketplace if who you sold to and who you did business with is now no longer viable in the current environment. We'll also talk a little bit about where to get some cash to help you with your business expenses, your personal expenses, paying payroll, etc., through our SBA loan or grant programs, and also unemployment. It's also a lot of resources through free coaching. We'll talk about how to get our minds back to work and some opportunities to give. And finally, we'll wrap up with a quick chat about future casting. And that really is a discussion on how we can prepare now so that we're ready for when the markets get to their new normal in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and et cetera. So let's go ahead to slide 5, and we'll talk a little bit more about moving our cheese. So when we think about change, there's a book in the late 1990s, early 2000s that came out called Who Moved My Cheese? And it was an allegory about mice whose cheese was moved and they had to adjust to find it. One had a negative mentality and the other mouse had a positive mentality about how they got through change. But right now, we're going through a lot of change in the marketplace, whether that's how we structure our lifestyles, whether that is how we run our businesses, how we think about healthcare and how we think about risk in the marketplace. There's a lot of things changing. And the one thing that we have control over is what we think about how we approach the marketplace. So we're going to move through these slides pretty quickly here, and let's skip to slide 7. So there are 6 stages of change management. I'm going to go through all 6 of those stages of change management so that you've got an idea of 1, where you are within those 6 stages, how to identify that stage, and then how to move through that stage, both individually, and then if you're managing others or have others in your home, how to guide them through that stage as well. A couple things to think about as we consider these stages and how to move through them. Number one is that the stages aren't necessarily in order, even though I'm going to present them in an order. So you could start at stage 5, and that's where you are, right? The second thing is that these stages aren't not necessarily linear from beginning to end. So you could start at stage 5 and then go back to stage 3 and then jump to stage 1 and then go to stage 6. So you've got to be really adept and have some high emotional intelligence, a high emotional IQ to really understand where you are and where your team is at any given point, and then move them forward through that stage so that you can get back to business and back to life. So the first stage we're going to talk about is pre-contemplation. That's highlighted by denying what's happening or having an ignorance of what the actual issue is. We see a lot of this with folks in the news or on social media saying that they don't believe what's going on with the quarantine or the healthcare crisis or closing the economy. But the reality is that people are getting sick, they're dying, folks are at home and not able to work, and businesses are shut down. So there is an issue that we've got to deal with here. And the way to push ourselves through this pre-contemplation stage, one is taking a very realistic assessment of what's happening right now with your business, with your life, with your finances, with sales, with operations, with your people, and then communicating assertively, not only to yourself through journaling and meditation, but then also communicating assertively to your team and your family about the current state of what's going on. The second stage is contemplation. Contemplation is usually marked by ambivalence. So knowing that there's an issue, but not caring or not doing anything about it, or having conflicting emotions about it, whether that's sadness about being quarantined, but also really happy that you don't have to see a bunch of people, or anger because you don't feel like there's any control, but then not taking control over what you can actually have control over. So the way to get through the contemplation period is to weigh the pros and cons of the scenario that we're currently in. Identify the barriers that are preventing you from creating the type of life or the type of success that you want to achieve. Have an open discussion with your team, an open discussion with your family, and be vulnerable with them. Even though, yes, you may be the leader of your organization, but be straight up and tell them, hey, I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z, or I don't know the answer, or I can't see what's coming in the future, but they'll respect you more and they will follow you into the fire if you're open and honest and discuss the challenges with them. Third is preparation. So you'll see the preparation stage when you start to make small changes and you start to gather information about how you move forward. Set goals and plan and prepare intellectually and emotionally and physically, and then share those plans with your people. Let's move forward to slide 8. So as we think about the last of the 6 stages, last 3 of the 6 stages of change management, fourth is take action. And you'll see this stage when you start to take actual action, but you'll also experience fear. The what if I take this action and it doesn't work? So through the 4th stage of taking action, give yourself rewards, get some support from other people. We'll talk about support opportunities a little bit later in this presentation today. And then also do some coaching yourself of your team and your people, and check in with them and give them milestones and give them check-in points so that you know how to really support them as they're trying something new. The 5th stage of change management is maintenance. How you know that you're in the maintenance stage is you start to see some consistency in your activity and consistency in results. You're also able to start to manage temptation to slip back into stages 1, 2, or 3. In the maintenance stage, the way to continue maintaining is to develop coping strategies. So just like if you're on a diet and you know that you like a sweet, crunchy snack as the night comes, instead of having a piece of candy, maybe you have some dehydrated peaches or dehydrated strawberries, right, for example. So if you know that when you're at home, you tend to get distracted really easily instead of doing work, maybe try staggering your work. So you work for 45 minutes and then you get to play for 15 minutes. You do that every hour for 6 hours, and then you end up getting a few hours of work done during the day, but you will still allow yourself the distraction. Also, identify leaders and naysayers in your team and publicly recognize those leaders for doing the actions that you want them to do. Number 6 is relapse. So at some point and at some degree, you may experience relapse after you've taken action and gone into that maintenance stage. And that'll be marked by frustration and disappointment over what's happened with your activity. So identify where you've shown up with weakness, with the changes and the new way that you're deciding to work and live. Tweak your plan based on your results and your weaknesses, and be honest with your team. So if you want to get through this change strong and come out and with a new normal for yourself, for your business, and your family, pre-contemplate what's coming up, then contemplate and understand that there may be some ambivalence, prepare for the small changes, take action, and start to maintain and develop coping strategies to continue to maintain your new lifestyle. And then finally, understand that there may be some relapse. Be okay with that, identify weaknesses, tweak your plan, and keep charging forward. Let's go ahead and skip ahead to slide 10, because the next stage of managing change is managing your own head trash. The only thing you can control, like I said before, is what's going on between your own ears, your thoughts. So think about what you're actually consuming between Facebook and the news briefings from the president and the governors and the mayors and people that you have around you. A lot of it is doom and gloom, doomsday, COVID-19, people are getting sick and dying, and I don't want to minimize that. But also, if you want to continue pressing forward in a positive way as small business owners and entrepreneurs, there's some of that stuff that you've got to shut out so that you can focus on results. So that means you need to take time and read and exercise and study and go to positive webinars like this one and podcasts and listen to uplifting music and meditate and journal and turn off those other channels. Now, yeah, you may still want to check your Facebook and you may want to tune into the news, make sure that you're staying abreast of what's happening, right? Because things change on a daily basis, but don't drown in it. Don't spend hours in it. And don't let it affect your mind. And when you start to think that way, shut it off and get to the things that really create some positivity and will drive you forward. Let's move to slide 11. So many of us, especially as business owners, and especially as business owners who are serving other business owners, so those are in B2B markets, some of those markets have really changed and sometimes changed for the worse. So we've had to think about two things. Number one, what industries and what businesses are still open as a result of the pandemic and the economic downturn, but also what businesses are counter-cyclical to economic downturns. So which businesses' sales and activity actually go up as a result when the economy goes down. So let's look at slide 12, and we did some crowdsourcing and some ideating. First, looking at the governor's list of essential businesses around states across the country, but then also thinking what businesses really thrive when economies are down. So manufacturing, distribution, supply chain, you still see trucks on the road moving goods from place to place. Government services, I'm on slide 12 now, healthcare and public health, public safety suppliers, elder care, property management, mass transit suppliers, food, like these things aren't going away. So if you've got a business or a product that can be retooled and shifted to the markets that are still doing business, it's time to think, retool, remarket, and get out there as fast as possible with an offering that will serve and support these new markets to you. So let's go ahead and move to slide 13. And on slide 13, we're talking a little bit more about getting an SBA loan. And the discouraging thing about the SBA loan is that there's been changes on a regular basis from the government's CARES Act. So if we skip ahead actually 2 slides to slide 15, we've got a couple of updates, and this is the latest news from today from COVID-19 relief.sba.gov. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the EIDL, has a lapse in appropriations, and that included the $2 million loans and the $10,000 grant loan advances. But what Congress is working on now, and I actually heard from Congressman Andre Carson's field representative today, that they're voting on the floor today on some of this bill language for the Coronavirus Preparedness and Response Supplemental Appropriations Act to get additional funds out to small business owners and earmark those for the small business owners and not just the businesses that consider themselves small but still have really deep pockets and can weather the storm themselves. Same thing's happened with the Paycheck Protection Program. There's been a lapse in appropriations. With both of those programs, if you had an existing loan application in, then those are still in queue, but any new applications are not being accepted. But there is, again, a vote coming out, and the least tentative information that I've heard today is that next week we could have a decision about new funds coming out. Let's move forward to slide 16. So in getting some SBA debt relief, there still are programs out there. If you've got an existing SBA loan, you can have a deferral for 6 months on your principal, interest, and fees. For new loans, so if you're going to acquire additional capital equipment or acquire a new business, P.S., if you want to grow right now, one of the best ways to do it is get an SBA loan to acquire another company and actually take over their sales, their clients, their capital equipment, and their employees, and begin to grow that way. So it may not be new business, but you can pick up a bunch of new businesses and acquire additional sales for 2020 through acquisition and this SBA loan. As long as you apply by September 27th, 2020, the principal, interest, and fees are also deferred. Disaster relief loans, those that were received as of 3/1/2020, there you've got automatic deferments for the rest of the year. So this is basically, there's no payments and it's free cash for the next 6 months plus, depending on when you actually apply for this SBA help. Now, even if the federal government doesn't come through, the private sector has started thinking about some ways that they can support small business. And on slide 17, there are 3 organizations right now where you can apply for loans. PayPal, Intuit, and Square have approved for loans to small businesses through the coronavirus relief program. So there's still opportunities to go out and find some funds from some other organizations. And P.S., within this PowerPoint, and I will share how to get access to this PowerPoint a little bit later, there are links to each of these sources there, so you can do some deeper investigating and apply for these funds. As we look at slide 19, let's skip ahead a couple. There's also an opportunity for solopreneurs, independent contractors, and sole proprietors to get and draw unemployment. Prior to the CARES Act, those funds weren't available for sole proprietors and independent contractors, but now they are. Also, the state of Indiana's Department of Workforce Development website has been updated in a way that sole proprietors can access those funds. I saw someone apply and get it done on Saturday, got a response by Monday. I heard of another business owner, a photographer and solopreneur that applied today and was able to get his application done. So a couple of notes. Number one, the Pandemic Unemployment Insurance Act from the CARES Act funds have not yet been released to the state of Indiana, but I did hear again from Congressman Carson's field representative that those funds should be released next week. So essentially there's between $200 and $300 a week in state-funded unemployment, and then the federal money should add another $600. So if you apply now and you want to make sure that if you're thinking about these dollars, that you get your application in the queue before the money runs out. So we saw what happened to EIDL and the Paycheck Protection Program, and the money runs out and it's done. So if you're even considering it, apply online and get in the queue. Because that means $1,000 now dollars per month and up to $4,000 per month when the federal money comes in of support for you and your business. And also if you have employees that are independent contractors, they also can have some support through this time too. So that link is also there, unemployment.in.gov. Let's move forward to slide 21. And as we jump ahead, there's some resources for free coaching help. Obviously, being part of groups like Open in Indiana and continuing to be engaged in your network is extremely important so that you're around other like-minded business owners that can help drive you forward, and also folks that have different experiences or more experience that can help you navigate your way through what's happening in the marketplace. But SCORE has mentors that are experienced entrepreneurs and executives that you can get coaching from directly. The Minority Business Development Agency's Business Center has also support. The Indy Chamber Rapid Response Hub, they've done a wonderful job in making sure that There are resources for entrepreneurs and small business owners, whether that's finding jobs or finding employees who are looking for jobs, getting loans, and the Indy Chamber and Business Ownership Initiative directly have loans and grants that are available for small business owners. They've got some consulting for the small business owners, legal help, operations help, HR help, etc. That can really go a long way to supporting you in every phase of your business. Other groups like the Indy Black Chamber of Commerce are also there as coaches and have access to funds. So go out and find some help. Let's go to slide 23. So there's a few things that we need to do, and the main one is work. This is not a vacation. This is not a time to rest on our laurels. Now, yes, it is a time to reconnect with our families. It's time to rebuild ourselves, get some extra sleep, take some time for yourself, but don't let your business fall down because you're using the quarantine or the economic environment or illness of others as an excuse. So get to work and find a new rhythm. Start to write down, what does your best life include right now? You know, for a long time, I've wanted to make sure that I prayed and read the Bible every day and exercised every day and spent time with my family every day and journaled and meditated and played with the dog and cooked home-cooked meals and played video games and read a book on self-help every single day. Well, guess what? Now I've got 2 to 4 hours a day additionally that I didn't have because of travel and eating out and taekwondo after school and picking up my kid and all this other stuff, right? Now I don't have to do it. So we've got time and an opportunity to rebuild our best lives the way that we've always wanted them to be, and to build our best companies the way that we've always wanted them to be, and time to retool our operations and retool our marketing and take a close look at our finances and get all those numbers caught up that we never have time to do as small business owners. Now's the time to get to work. Also, you have an opportunity to buy low and sell high, whether that's surplus supplies, right? Or whether those are additional businesses like we talked before about growth through acquisition. You can get businesses on the cheap right now because of what's happening in the marketplace, and you can use contract terms like earnouts, for example, to pay a smaller amount up front and then a percentage of sales over the next 3 years because of the uncertainty in the market, and that allows you to pick up new contracts and new deals in a way that you never could before. Let's jump forward to slide 25 and talk about giving. So there's 2 pieces to this. One is how you're giving to the marketplace. And this is an excellent time, and you're seeing the proof in the pudding right here. I'm doing what I'm telling you to do, and that's to give your expertise to the marketplace. Become that trusted advisor to your clients. So if you're in a B2C environment, so to speak, maybe you sell some type of dog treat. Well, this is the time to talk about pet care and the time to talk about building a relationship with your pet, or the time to talk about healthy options for nutrition for your pet or homeopathic remedies. Like, my dog has stinky breath, we ran out of bones, I don't want to go to the store because of the pandemic. Well, now he's eating parsley and cinnamon and coconut oil and apple cider vinegar with his food every day to fix his breath, right? So what are some things that you can do to get to the marketplace to build your brand in a way that really genuinely helps them? What's the how-to for your business that you can write about, that you can vlog about, that you can deliver a webinar about or a teleconference call about? Put it out there and just be of service. The other thing is to spread joy in your giving. Dwayne Weber, a former business coach and also cyclist and used to work for the Indy Chamber, commented on one of my Facebook posts. With my family, we painted rocks with positive sayings on them and hearts and that type of thing. It was an evening quarantine family activity. And he said what his family did was something similar, but then he took them out on their walks. He'd put them on top of people's mailboxes as they walked down the street. Just a small thing to spread a little bit of love, a little bit of joy, and a little bit of giving so that you feel good as the giver, but also the recipient has some joy too. Let's move forward to slide 27 as we wrap up. Number 8 in the 8 bounce back strategies is to anticipate what's next. In prior talks, I've called this future casting. And there are 5 main things you want to think about. Number 1, really define what's going on right now. And a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. Well, we had a downturn at the end of last quarter. The stock market has started to return. Some consumer confidence, I believe personally, we're going to experience a boom as soon as this quarantine is lifted. So May 1st in the state of Indiana, we'll see people getting back to work. We'll see people spending money. We'll see energy and excitement because folks are finally let out of their home somewhat freely. So we may not actually hit a technical recession. Yes, there's a bump. Yes, there's a blip. Yes, there's a downturn. But as soon as we get a handle on how to experience this new normal and also how to really think about the coronavirus, we may not even have a technical recession. How did previous recessions end? Well, bank lending opened. There's lower interest rates. Consumer confidence index increases. And our current environment, banks are lending money through the SBA. We've got low interest rates still in the single digits. And consumer confidence, as the quarantines are lifted, will be very, very strong. People will be aching, if they've got cash, to spend it. Now also think in terms of timing, because we've got to be prepared for what's coming next. Our current state is not going to last forever. Economic downturn is not going to last forever. Now, yes, I believe, and many other experts have said, that there is going to be a new normal. Business and life will not return to what it was in December 2019. But we are going to turn back to high economic productivity. We are going to turn back to a state of feeling confident about our health and confident to spend money and confident to invest. And that length of time could be anywhere from 9 months to 18 months. Since the Great Depression, there's been 11 recessions, but they've only averaged 9.5 months. So that means by the end of the year, the average recession should be over. Now, yeah, it could be a little longer, but we just need to prepare and think about the fact that at some point, things are going to shift for the better, and we've got to be ready with great marketing, great operations, great people, great mindset to attack the market. And not only be ready when it opens up, but to lead through the change. Finally, the previous pandemics, because for many of this is very new. And since the Spanish flu in 1918 that everybody refers back to and talks about, there's been 3 flu pandemics, each of them lasting 1 to 2 years. So there's also been many reports that say that the coronavirus is going to cycle through the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere, and it'll be back until the world develops immunity and or vaccine. So that means that we could have a recurrence or a surge of coronavirus and COVID-19 cases come the end of this year. Okay, so let's think about how we prepare our cash position and our people and our mindset for a potential new surge, and also what will happen in a year or two when we finally get a grip on this thing and we return to some sort of new normal. So keep those thoughts in mind as you're thinking about what's happening now, because our current state is not going to be what our world looks like in 6, 9, 12, 18 months. So as we wrap up here and go to slide 28, just remember to think and consider what stage of change you and your family and your business are in. And use the strategies we talked about before to move yourselves through that period of change so you can get to that maintenance stage, the new normal. Think about and consider which markets are countercyclical to economic downturn and which markets are really strong right now. I mean, I've got friends in educational technology and friends in pharmaceutical distribution that literally can't get sleep right now because they're working so hard to fulfill orders. Is there a way that you can get into that marketplace? You'll find the money that's out there right now in many cases that's being offered for free or for extended payment terms so that you can get through these next few months and triage with your business. Get help and be okay getting help. Get back to work. Don't take a vacation, but still find ways to live your best life through this time because we're giving this is a chance for our world, our earth, and ourselves, our lives, our businesses, all to breathe. And finally, anticipate what's next. The best business owners are the ones that can sort of have a looking glass and tell the future and prepare for that anticipated future and succeed in the long term. So again, if you go to slide 29, and we'll share this again a little bit later in the chat window, but slide 29, there is access to all these links and this full PowerPoint presentation at bit.ly/recession rebound, bit.ly/recession rebound. And I really appreciate the opportunity to share these thoughts and to be part of the resurgence and the strength of the Indiana business community as we go through this change. So Ryan, I'll turn things back to you as we jump into our discussion.
Yes, Jamar, thank you. We have come to the portion of our webinar where our viewers are encouraged to ask Jamar their questions about how to help their business during these uncertain times. So if you're watching this video right now, please feel free to comment your questions into the comments. We have a comment from Christian Tombers in Noblesville, Indiana. He said, "Thank you, Jamar. Great advice and encouragement. I needed this."
Great to hear from you, Christian. I've known you for a long time, and I know we haven't seen each other in person in a while, but Facebook has kept us connected, and glad to reconnect here. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
While we're waiting for some questions to pop in here, Jamar, I'd like to ask you a question. What is one thing that a small business owner can walk away from this webinar and start doing today that would help their business?
So I know you said one, but I'm going to give you two. The two big things that I think the best business owners who are really weathering the storm are doing. One is actively going after those sources of cash through the SBA, through the federal government, and also through our state government. It's there. I think there's been some hesitancy as business owners because we're used to being the providers, we're used to being the strong ones, and we're used to, honestly, having the cash, right, more than some other citizens in our country because of the fact that we chose to take a risk and be business owners, and we reap the benefits of those. But also, this is one of those scenarios that there's a business downturn and it has nothing to do with anything anybody did. It's out of our control. So if there's something that we can do as small business owners to get help from the broader community and those with deeper federal and statewide pockets, that's part of why we pay into these systems. And for short term, it can be really helpful for us to get the cash when we get to this period. So apply for the money. If you don't use it, save it, pay it back. The second thing is, and this is really the most important, this season is all about our own mental strength. And I learned this a few weeks ago. There's a woman named April. She used to be really involved in some of her networking circles, but I was actually delivering a similar program. She was on there and had some discussion at the end. And, she was talking about how she had just gotten 4 new clients. I'd got a comment on one of my other Facebook posts about another realtor having a couple of closings over the past couple of weeks. And people are still buying, people are still selling, people are doing deals. The economy is still moving. Yeah, it may be a little tighter than it was before, but we've got to fix our minds on success and really creating abundance during this time. Because any other thought is counterproductive and it won't help us succeed and thrive.
Thank you. Those were great. So you blew me away with that. We are still asking for viewer questions here. If you're watching live with us, please drop a comment in below with your question, and Jamar will be happy to answer it for you. Jamar, while we're waiting for any further questions to come in, would you like to share with viewers how they can get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more, or you could help them in any way?
Sure. So, one of the best ways is to, one, get the information for yourself at bit.ly/recession rebound, that's bit.ly/recession rebound. That way, one, you'll get the PowerPoint. Second, you'll get all the links in the PowerPoint, and my contact information is at the bottom of every page. You can also find me through email, which is Jamar, Jamar, at indianabusinessadvisors.com. That's Jamar at indianabusinessadvisors.com. And just like I talked about in point 7 of our presentation today about giving, I'm really excited to be a trusted advisor and a resource during this time. I don't know everything, but one of the hallmarks to being a good consultant is knowing who to ask and where to find the information. And if nothing else, we can put our brains together and make sure that you get the answers that you need. So this time is too tough for us to do it alone. I was telling Ryan a little bit earlier that the first couple of weeks of the epidemic and the quarantine, my wife was on vacation on spring break with her family in Florida. They've got a place down there, and they were still quarantined and following it right, but they at least had 80 degree sunshine and a little fishing boat that could go on a daily basis. And, so I was alone the first 2 or 3 weeks. And that was cool, it was a little break, but it started to get real tough because, I had the stress of quarantine by myself. I had nothing to do by myself. I had to go out and grocery shop by myself. I had to clean the house by myself. There was nobody to talk to. Me and the dog were having some good conversations, boy, right? But when my wife came back, I didn't recognize it, but I was so happy and so excited just to have some uplift and somebody to share this experience with. And that's really what we need as business owners as well, is someone to share this experience with, someone to bounce ideas off of, someone to really hold us up when we're down, to celebrate when we've had wins. So do that same thing, not only with me and reaching out to Indiana Business Advisors, but also with your coworkers there and those who are in your network.
Great. Jamar, we have a comment from Christian Tombers in Noblesville here again. His comment is, media keeps referring to social distancing. I prefer to look at it as physical internet distancing while remaining in touch through internet, telephone, mail, Zoom, Skype, etc. What are your thoughts?
So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And there's a couple of interesting thoughts that have been floating around. So in addition to physical internet distancing, which I really like, and I like that phraseology too, because we've suddenly been able to reconnect in ways that, were just ancillary before, right? You'd shoot a quick text or, you'd have a Zoom call periodically, but now these things are the mainstay of our communication. But sometimes we need to return back to those things that really made us great communicators in the first place. So I've started writing letters to people. I sent 4, I think, last week, and I'm really excited, waiting with bated breath in the mailbox to see who writes me back. I sent letters to Missouri and to New York City and a couple in Indiana. And that was just kind of fun. My hand hurt because I'm not used to actually physically writing. So, taking the time to old school communicate is good. But then we've also got to think about how Zoom is impacting communication and a lot of these web conversations and how it's changing how we perceive meetings. So I was listening to Pod Save America earlier this week. My wife and I were gardening, and she shot me a link, and there's a psychologist who was talking to the host. The psychologist mentioned that Zoom meetings do have an impact on our ability to perceive communication because we can't see everything. We don't see people's hands, we don't see their legs, their facial features are muted through the digitization of the cameras. So there's a lot of communication that's lost. Also, we can't see in a room who everybody's looking at because everybody's kind of looking at their cameras, right? So where the attention goes, it makes it harder to focus on what's happening during the meeting. Finally, there's more stress associated with Zoom calls because in those person-to-person meetings, you can tell when someone's looking at you. You can tell when you need to be on, You can tell when you need to have a smile on your face. You can tell when you need to, be paying attention and what and who you need to be paying attention to. But on Zoom, everybody's looking at each other potentially, right? So you don't know when you're on. And even though, we said, well, it's only 30 minutes and I didn't have to travel and it's really easy, there are new and potentially higher stressors that can be associated with some of these new tools that we're using. So, as we change how we're communicating, don't forget to return to some of the old mainstays that really helped us, for many of us, through the 70s and 80s and 90s with the pen pals. But also think about a little higher level, how these new communication strategies are impacting communication and what we need to do to be really effective at them.
Great. Well, Jamar, I don't see any more questions here from viewers. So before we end our broadcast this afternoon, why don't you give everyone one last opportunity to get your contact information?
Sure. And I did want to thank you again, Ryan, for the opportunity to share. It gives me a lot of joy to be able to take 30, 45 minutes out of the day and do what I can to create a positive environment and headspace for entrepreneurs in Central Indiana. So thank you very much, and thank you for doing this for a lot of other speakers and entrepreneurs in our community. I know this is a regular series, so thank you. Again, this is Jamar Cobb-Dennard. You can reach me through Indiana Business Advisors. My email address is jamar@indianabusinessadvisors.com. And if you'd like a copy of this presentation, you can get that at bit.ly/Recession Rebound. That also includes all the links to the resources that we mentioned today, plus all of my contact information. That's bit.ly/Recession Rebound.
Great. Well, Jamar, thank you so much for being our guest presenter today. And to all of our viewers, thank you for watching today. This webinar will be archived shortly on our website at www.openindiana.com/watch. Thanks for watching, everyone.